Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on Toned In Entertainment, where we love pop culture. Today it's time to continue on my series I call First Impressions, where I look at this week's issue number ones, or at least the ones that I was interested in, give them a read and let you guys know if I think they're worth continuing on with. Now this week I'm going to take a look at 4 comics. So are any of these Sleeping Beauties, or should they all just be put down for the count? Well, we're going to kick it off with a one-shot this week from Aftershock Comics called Hell is a Squared Circle. We meet the man Ted Walsh, as well as his squared circle alter ego, the Mooska. And while his wrestling career really hasn't gone in the direction he had hoped for, his personal life is in complete shambles as he spends his nights drowning his sorrows, all while the money he's spending should be going to paying bills and child support. Now, while Ted's life is by no means smooth sailing, he always seems to have a plan to turn it around. But unfortunately for this grappler, he tends to be on the short side of the stick each and every time. Fed up with being a jobber in real life, he decides it's time to let his voice known and take what he believes is his. But in doing so, he only ends up throwing more gasoline on the dumpster fire that is his life. Now, with no other options, Ted heads north across the border into Canada and is actually able to hit the reset button on his life. Now, after many years of living under an alter ego, things appear to be going good for Ted, even having the opportunity to make amends with his grown-up daughter. However, there's an old saying that all good things must come to an end, and that's going to be very true here for Ted Walsh, as he gets an unexpected visitor from his past who has come to collect for his past crimes. Now, even if you're not a wrestling fan, Hell is a Squared Circle is an awesome read. But if you are a wrestling fan, well, I think you're going to absolutely love this comic book just like I did. So my official score for Hell is a Squared Circle issue number 1 is going to be a 10 out of 10. This issue is written by Chris Condon, and just like a great storyline in wrestling, he builds it up, gets us into the action, and when the story wraps up, it evokes emotion, leaving me wanting a rematch in the future. Also, there's some nice wrestling references here, like a bar in Canada called the Hitmen that I really dug. The art here is done by Francisco Baigini and colors by Mark Engler, and they're right on point with the exceptional story, not only putting me right in the middle of the action, but also at the very same time feeling like these larger than life characters could leap off the pages and have a real life smackdown. Now, whether you're a wrestling fan or not, Hell is a Squared Circle is definitely worth checking out. Next up from Boom Studios, we have Briar issue number 1. Now, what got my attention to pick up this book is its premise here, written by Christopher Cantwell, as we see his take on a Sleeping Beauty story where the princess goes into a deep sleep. But instead of being awoken by a kiss from her Prince Charming, she instead goes into a deep sleep for 100 years. And when she wakes up, this princess is no beauty, and the world she once knew is full of nightmares. And yes, while I really dig the premise, unfortunately, the dialogue here in issue number 1 for me was just a complete turnoff. And not only did I not enjoy it, but I found myself having to take a break from reading this issue only to come back and force myself to finish this one. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving issue number 1 of Briar a 4 out of 10. Now, I do want to emphasize that I believe there is an audience for this type of writing, but for me, this is not my taste, and it's something I have no urge to return to. Next up from Image Comics, we have Flawed issue number 1. We meet Dr. Jem Ez, a psychiatrist by day and a monster slayer by night. And no, I'm not talking about vampires and werewolves, but she's out to punish a group of horrible human beings that are harming adolescent black females. And while I said there are no monsters in typical definition, it does appear that there are some strange scientific experiments going on here in the town of Seetham. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving issue number 1 of Flawed a 9 out of 10. Now, this book rocked. The best way I can describe it is Kill Bill meets Dexter, just with some more firepower. artist Prenzy has no problem showing us just how brutal Gem gets down when she goes into vigilante mode. While it's not the most original concept, writer Chuck Brown has put enough of his own creative juices here in issue number 1 of Flawed to make it stand out from not only being another typical vigilante story, but being one that I can't wait to see how it all unfolds moving forward. And finally, from Dark Horse Comics, we have the ROADIE issue number 1. To many, Joe is just a roadie for the band Massacre, but the stories he can tell are more than that of just what the crazy lifestyles famous rock stars can lead, because if he so chooses, he can tell any woman he's trying to score with how he's able to contain the demons that the music Massacre just happens to summon when they rock out. Now, while Joe believes that his days of slaying have been put behind him, when Joe's daughter is next on the hit list, it's going to be time for old Joe to put the pedal to the metal once again. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving issue number 1 of the ROADIE a 7.5 out of 10. First off, the art by Frank Gallen is not only exceptional, but just a lot of fun, and is perfect for the story that Tim Seeley is telling. Now, as someone who grew up in the days of cassettes, I did have a good time with this story's concept. I remember growing up, and there were always rumors about bands that if you played their songs backwards, you would hear hidden messages. And of course, in the 80s and 90s, us consumers didn't have the technology to try it out, so it would often go down as an urban legend. Now, while I really did dig the art and I do like the story, what really holds this book back from getting a higher score is the dialogue. I feel like it does drag quite a bit and it does slow down the story's momentum. But other than that, this story is weird and out there, and I do enjoy that. Now, moving forward, I do think the ROADIE does have a possibility of a rocking future. Alright guys, well that's going to wrap up this week's edition of First Impressions. Now, out of the 4 comics that I reviewed, did you read any of them? And if so, what are your thoughts? Comment down below. And guys, if you like these First Impression comic book reviews, I'll be back next week with another edition. So guys, make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can stay tuned in here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos.
Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.